Okay, so today's learning target is I can solve a system of equations using linear combination. The other way, or the other name that this is called is elimination, right? We're going to eliminate one of the variables using both equations. Okay, so if I want to eliminate, the first thing that I have to do is get both equations in standard form. Okay, so as you can see, this one is 1x minus 1y is equal to 11. That is in standard form. However, the second one here, 2x equals 19 plus y, or minus y, is not in standard form. So I'm going to transform that by adding the y to both sides. Okay, I want to get the y off of this side. I want to leave the x where it is. I'm going to put this in standard form. Okay, so I get x minus y equals 11, because that one doesn't change. And then 2x plus y is equal to 19. Okay, so look for the second step that you need to do is examining both equations. First of all, make sure that all of your variables are lined up. I've got x's over x's, I've got y's over y's, and the number over the number. Okay, equal signs also have to line up. Okay, so everything's lined up. Now I want to look for a pair of opposite terms, or make a pair of opposite terms. So, okay, and what an opposite term is, okay, so this is important. When you're making opposite terms, you're looking for the same number, same variable, different sign, right? So opposite term is the same number, same variable, oops, different sign. Okay, so if I examine these variables, I've got an 1x and a negative 1y on top, and a 2x and a positive 1y on the bottom. But I do have a pair of opposite terms, right? 1 and 2 don't work. They're different numbers. Same variable, but different numbers. But the y's have the same variable, the same number, and both of the y's have different signs. Okay, so once you have done that, the third step is to add the equations together. And solve for the remaining variable. Okay, so I'm going to add these two equations that I have together. So I get 1x plus 2x, that's 3x. And if I've done this correctly, one of my variables should drop out. Negative 1y plus 1y is 0. And then 11 plus 19 is 30. So I'm left with 3x is equal to 30. And now I can solve for x by dividing by both sides by 3. So x equals 10. Okay, and the final step is to plug the one you know back in and solve for the remaining variables. So the last thing I need to do is solve for remaining variable, because I need both, right? I found x, Now I need to find y. Okay, so I've got x equals 10. I'm going to pick one of these equations to plug it back into. I like this one the best because it has the least numbers and it's working with 1 a lot. So I'm going to take 1x minus y equals 11 minus 1y equals 11. I'm going to plug in the 10. So I'm going to put the 10 back in. So I get 1 times 10 minus y is equal to 11. Okay, well 1 times 10 is 10. I'm going to subtract the 10 from both sides. It's negative y is equal to 1. Okay, and then multiply both sides by negative 1 to solve for y. So y is equal to negative 1. Okay, so my x is 10, my y is 1, so my final solution is 10, negative 1. Okay, so we've got a couple more examples. Now example 2 is going to be slightly different because first step is already done for me, right? Both of these are in standard form. I've got an x and a y and a number, and they're all lined up, right? So this is the best possible situation for elimination when you already have this set up. Okay, so in order to finish my second step, so step 2, I have to start there because I already have them in standard form. Step 1 is check, right? They're both in standard form. Now I have to look for / make a pair of opposite terms. Now to make opposite terms, because I don't have them, right? I've got the same variables but different numbers on both. But to make opposite terms, I'm going to choose one that's the easiest for me to eliminate. Now I've got a 1x here and a negative 2x here. So to make this an opposite term, this is positive, this is negative, this is x, I only have to make this a 2. So to do that, I'm going to multiply this entire top equation by 2. And when I do that, I have to multiply everything by 2. And that will give me my pair of opposite terms. So 2 times x is 2x, 2 times 3 is 6y, 3y, sorry, is 6y, and 2 times 3 is 6. Okay, so now I've got my pair of opposite terms, right? Negative 2, positive 2, x. So I can skip to step 3 and add my equations together, right? So step 3, you need to add them together and solve. So negative 2 plus 2, well that's going to drop out. Got negative 6 plus y, I'm sorry, negative 12y plus 6y is negative 6y. Negative 6 plus 6 is 0. And all that's left is negative 6y equals 0. So I'm going to solve for y. So y is equal to 0. Now, I'm going to take that y equals 0 and plug it back into one of my equations that fits the best. I am going to choose the top one again. So I'm going to take x plus 3y equals 3 and plug in the y equals 0. Okay, so I get x plus 3 times 0 equals 3. The 0 drops out. I get x is equal to 3. And so my final solution is 3, comma 0, my x and my y. Alright, so I want you to pause the video real quick and try example 3 on your own. Okay, so the first thing that you should have done was try to make a pair of opposite terms. Now, the easiest way to do this in this case is to pick one that's already positive, already negative, already x, already y, or sorry, already lined up. So this is in standard form, so step 1 is check. Step 2, I need a pair of opposite terms. So what you should have done is figure out the fastest way to make these opposite. Well, what can I multiply 4 by and what can I multiply 9 by to make these the same number? Well, I'm going to take the easy route and just multiply them by each other. So I want to make this times 9, and I'm going to take this equation times 4. And what that's going to do is make these two numbers the same, right? Because 9 times 4, either way you do it, is going to be 36. So I get 9 times 5 is 45x. 9 times 4 is 36y. Minus 9 times negative 30, which is negative 270. Okay. 4 times 3, which is 12x. 4 times negative 9, which is negative 36y. And 4 times negative 18, which you should have gotten negative 70, no, yeah, negative 72. Okay, so if I combine these two, I'm going to add them together. 45x plus 12x is 57x. And 30 minus 36, those drop out, leaving me with 0. And negative 270 minus 72 is negative 342. Okay, if I divide both sides by 57, I get x is equal to negative 6. Okay. So what you should have done from there was plug it back into a favorable equation. In this case, I'm going to choose the top or the bottom one. So I'm going to take that negative 6 and plug it into 3x minus 9y equals negative 18. Okay, so that gets rid of my x and allows me to solve for my y. So we've got negative 3 times negative 6, negative 18. If I multiply those two together, I get negative 18 minus 9y is equal to negative 18. To solve for y, I'm going to add 18 to both sides. So means negative 9y is equal to 0. Divide both sides by negative 9. Y equals 0. So my final ordered pair is negative 6, 0. Okay, so you ready to talk about this in class tomorrow? And have a good night.